Hi, Randy.
Hi, hi, hi.
How are you?
All right, look at my back.
Hello, guys.
Hello.
Hey, Scott, you look good.
Afternoon, Lisa, Mr. Alberts.
Good afternoon.
Hello there, everyone.
Hello, Andrew.
Hello, Christopher.
Yes, and I have a present for you all.
Is it that flag? Oh,
Is it cookies?
No? Peace and love.
we prefer cookies.
Andrew, you always need cookie.
I do. I absolutely do.
You missed the Means of Two Broadway. Just for that, if we do go back, I want to make sure I have a sign that says Andrew Albert's Cookies.
Good.
Bill,
Bill.
Hi, Randy.
Hi.
Ladies and
Remember,
gentlemen,
I still owe Larry Short's pizza. Remember that. I still owe Larry Short's pizza.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
hello, Marisol.
Hello, Soul.
Oh,
Sun is too bright for you, huh?
My glasses immediately go to transition.
Very cool.
How's it up there in the Bronx?
Beautiful.
great. We have call-in user 1. Who is call-in user 1?
I see we have Walter Zulik there.
We have Walter Zulik.
Good morning, all.
Hey, Walter.
Who is call-in user 1, please?
Is that a low V behind it, Randy?
Yes, it is.
I thought so.
I did it for the Transit Riders Council people.
We appreciate it.
Uh-huh.
I like it.
As long as it's not an R179.
No.
Yeah, not likely.
Marisol, where was the picture taken?
West Farm.
Nope.
No?
The neighborhood, 161st.
Oh, wow.
It was a Yankee special.
Not that you could tell from the picture.
No.
Right, I shopped it.
Yeah, I
I'm
like
going
Randy's
to-
background.
All right. Who is Ron, please?
Hi, my name is Ron Troy. Hi.
Hi, Ron. Can you please spell your last name?
T-R-O-Y.
T-R-O-Y. Great. Thank you.
I'm really glad you got this on Zoom, regardless of the reason why.
Okay.
Nice to be able to see this remotely.
Great.
And Judy's joining in.
I see Trudy. And who is caller 1, please? Somebody who called in who does not who has not identified themselves. Oh, is
May
that
have been
Ron?
me. Was it me? I'm not sure. Bill Guild?
Oh, good to see you, Bill.
Lisa, I'm on the phone as well.
Is that Stuart?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, great. You are caller 1.
Lisa, Lisa, just to let
Hold on, please.
Sure.
Okay. Yes, Chris.
Just let everyone know that if you're on the phone, you can actually press *6. It does mute and unmute.
Actually, we're going to do something a little bit differently today. Is I'm going to take over all the controls, and we're going to leave the members unmuted. We would appreciate if you do mute while you're not speaking. And then if anybody who is not a member would like to speak, I'm going to ask you to raise their hand, please. Okay? That way we're gonna allow certainly for discourse and conversation. On our last Transit Riders Council, we had some incredibly inappropriate comments that were spewed, racially hateful, and that's not tolerated. So we are, unfortunately, going to have to be put in this position. So, is Jace Nichols? Is that Scott?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, great.
Somebody has something on in the background, so if they would turn that off or mute themselves, that would be good.
Okay. Yvonne, I see you're on twice. just give us one more minute. We'll get the rest of our team. Bill Gill, it is wonderful to see you.
Well, good to see all of you,
Yes.
or at least most of you.
I second that emotion.
Hope you're
Hello?
feeling better, Bill.
Oh, a
Hello?
bit, yeah.
Listen, this is Trudy. I'm going to mute myself again, but I can unmute myself as long as you don't keep me on mute, okay?
Trudy, I'm only muting the non-members and.
Okay, but
we're
I'm going to mute myself because I'm also still watching the mayor's press conference, which I will report on later, and it affects us. Okay, so but I can unmute myself, which I'll do. Just don't keep me muted. Okay, bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye.
That's Stuart, and we have Scott.
Perfect. Good.
Yes, somebody is. Bill, hold on. Christopher.
Just
I
me.
did see Bert is on. I saw Larry in there somewhere. There's Larry. Great. Bradley. Oh, Matt Camper. We have our guest Mark Dowd.
Yes, I am here.
Great. I see Kate Cantino. May I ask who's Hatch 00? Is that Jerry? Is that you, Jerry? Yes. Great. Terrific. So let me get just everybody give me a sec. Give me just a moment and I will be right with you. Sec.
Bert, you have to eat on your own time.
That's right. We always ate by 12 o'clock.
Okay. I believe that we have a quorum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11. Yes.
That's talking.
Okay.
We okay to start?
Yes. Stuart, you should be, okay, Stuart, you're unmuted, so you figured that out. Great.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And *6 to mute. Okay, Andrew, take it away.
All right. Great to virtually see or hear everybody today. It would have been nice if we had been back to normal, but this is the next best thing. So thank you for joining us. There's obviously an awful lot going on as we get closer to Monday's magical phase 1 reopening day. You probably have seen some of the announcements pertaining to what will take place on Monday. There have been some conflicting reports as well. However, we do know that as of today, for instance, the 6 and 7 express trains resumed. That's a good sign. As of Monday, I believe the B, W, and Z will resume, as well as regular levels of service. There will be obviously close monitoring of everything to make sure social distancing is taking place. The cleaning regimen will continue, which means that cars are getting cleaned multiple times a day and stations at least once, with some very heavily used stations getting cleaned more than once. There are some exciting new technologies that the MTA is utilizing, and we will hear from our guest speaker on those. And I expect this will be a very enlightening discussion of the new technologies, including ultraviolet light and antimicrobials and a host of other things. So we look forward to hearing Mark Dowd's presentation. Another good piece of news is that the capital program is restarting, so to speak, and has resumed in some cases. So a Rutgers Tube will happen in June. We'll resume work, which means that CBTC installation on 8th Avenue can resume. The construction of the Belmont Station on the Long Island Railroad has resumed. All kinds of track work and signal work on Long Island Railroad is happening. And you will hear more, I guess, on the individual chair reports as to those developments. Another good piece of news that we just got yesterday is that thanks to Senator Schumer, the MTA will have access to the Federal Reserve's lending pool, which will give them access to $500 billion worth of necessary funds. While this is not, this is kind of a loan, to put it in any other way. It's not a grant, but this will enable the MTA to ratchet up its service, improve its facilities, and get done everything that it needs to get done in a system of this size. We continue to lobby, obviously, for a change in the federal laws, which for some crazy reason gives New York, which has 40% of transit riders nationwide, 16% of the federal funding. That is so out of whack, so we will continue to send communications to Secretary Chow's office, as well as the New York congressional delegation, to see if we can right this very clear wrong. I will say that Phil Eng, president of the LIRR, of course, has announced there will be additional cars on his on all Long Island Railroad trains to accommodate more social distancing. I have not heard, and perhaps whoever's going to give the Long Island report today will let us know about service levels. Metro North has definitely upped their service levels and is continuing to monitor everything that is going on there. But in the midst of all of these developments, I would say the PCAC is needed more than ever, because we will be the riders' voices out there as things continue to change, hopefully for the better. We will be hearing from Trudy on various things that she has heard by way of the governor's office as to ways that New York City Transit will be stepping up to allow for more social distancing, more cleaning. I know that for in fact, they are working on a program that would enable your smartphone to let you know how crowded the next train is, and if you could choose to take the following train. Things of that nature continuing to develop, and we will certainly hear from Trudy shortly. So I don't want to prolong this because I will have more to say in the transit riders report. So Lisa, did you want to give a report right now?
I just wanted to, Sharon, you have your hand up. Did you want to say something?
After you'd gotten me logged in, I'm sorry, I'll undo it.
Yes, gotcha.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just would like to introduce our intern, Shell Picker. And Bradley is working with him on putting together some projects that we're really excited about. So first I'm gonna unmute Bradley to say a couple words, and then I'm gonna unmute Shell to say a couple of words.
All right, hello everybody. Just real quick, I'm excited to bring to the PCAC Shaul Picker. He is our new PCAC summer intern. He comes from Hunter College. Great school, I went there myself. He has done a lot of work already on transit-related matters. He was an intern at the Queensboro President's Office and also was an intern at the NYU Wagner Rudin Center for Transportation Policy and Management. So for as young as he is, he has a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge, and you may have seen him from time to time presenting testimony at the MTA committee and board meetings. So we also have him working on, especially right now because of COVID-19, we have him working on looking at ways to reduce overcrowding to help promote social distancing and to keep riders safe. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Shaul if you'd like to say a few words, and welcome aboard.
Okay. Oh, there you go.
Okay. Thank you so much once again for taking me on. and just hope to use the PCAC's unique role in being able to work internally with the MTA and also advocate for the riders to try to actually contribute and actually cause lead to improvements somewhat on the inside as opposed to the outside. And I'm excited to work on the things that Bradley's assigned to me.
We're looking forward to having you. Thank you.
Did Bradley say what those projects were, or just the types of projects that he's thinking about?
They're still under development.
Okay.
That Shell has sent a good overview that Bradley and Ellen and he will discuss later.
Okay, great.
Shell started on June 1st, so he's jumped in with 2 feet and a couple of hands and a rubber ducky, so he's definitely ready to go.
Okay, so lately in the news, you've probably seen a lot about the mayor stating what he would like to see the MTA do to get us back up and running. Some of those items, many of us in the advocacy community believe are non-starters. Skipping stations, for instance, is ridiculous. Making every other seat non-usable in what could be a rush hour is ridiculous. And we do understand there will be a hand sanitizer handed out to everybody, and the MTA has asked the mayor's office to provide volunteers for that purpose. There will also be vending machines in stations to allow for the sale of both PPE, personal protective equipment, masks, gloves, and sanitizer, I believe, unless the sanitizer will be given out for free, which would be a wonderful thing. I understand also that although there was a press conference this morning concerning Omni and its rollout, obviously a faster rollout of Omni would allow for less touching of surfaces, although, as we know, the important monthly and weekly unlimited ride passes, as well as some of the half fare rides, are not yet available on the Omni system. And we obviously, for this to be successful, they would have to be. We will probably hear more about the results of that press conference that Al Poutre, who has spoken at a Transit Riders Council meeting previous to this, or maybe it was a PC or AC meeting, or maybe it was both. Anyway, he's very excited about it and was at Queensboro Plaza this morning for his press conference, so I'm sure we will be getting notices of that shortly. But in terms of what the governor is thinking about the reopening and what he will be instructing the mayor's office to accompany him on, Trudy has been privy to some of these discussions. So if Trudy is available, can you give us a quick summary of that before we get to our featured speaker? *6, Trudy.
There you are.
Hello, you muted me. Hello?
We hear you now.
You muted me, Lisa. Okay, now I know. I've been trying since you started talking, Andrew. I'll be very brief. One of the things we can do, what the governor has asked for, because the mayor put out a thing that anybody who wanted to volunteer to be on platforms and get people moving, that is not so. But people who have some knowledge of how the subways run and about what goes on, if you would contact, or if you get them to contact, and that includes us who know about about trains and spacing and platforms, if we would contact Lisa, I think it would probably be through Pat Foy's office or through Sarah's office, any volunteers that we have who would like to help out on Monday morning, and they will be assigned to specific stations, specific places. And the purpose of that will be, not only are they going to be, marking for social distancing, but also to make sure that people know that they should, the trains are going to run on a very, very, very regular basis, and they shouldn't try to squeeze on one, all one on one, like usually goes on during rush hour, because that is the big concern right now, which is about social distancing on the subways. And also, Andrew, I think you said about already the hand cleaners, and
Yes.
and there will be masks distributed to everybody who enters a subway. And while it won't be mandatory, I mean, people will not be thrown out if they refuse to put it on. There's not going to be like went on before at some stores and things. But at the same time, everybody is asked very politely to please put on a mask as they enter the subway. Those are the most important things. But if you know of anybody who would like to volunteer, please have them go directly to Lisa, I guess to Pat's office, I think would be the best place. I don't know. You would know.
I'm going to follow up. I do not know. My understanding was, and maybe Mark has more information on this, Mark Dowd, that the MTA asked the city to provide the 3,000 volunteers. I did not see any mechanism for sign up. We'll follow up with that, and we'll reach out.
Because it changes momentarily, but when the mayor made this vast announcement that anybody who wants to volunteer, and if you get on the subway and you can help, it was going to be absolute chaos. And you can't get everybody just showing up at the same place. So there's got to be some coordination. It may be that it is being organized through Polly Trachtenberg's office, but there is somebody at the MTA, and I don't know who. I just assumed
We can
it was
find
Pat's
out.
office. But
So
you
we'll
can find out.
But I don't think that we should send individuals to Pat's office at this point.
No.
No. But there should be a mechanism for, through us and through others, for people who are familiar with the system, and so that everybody doesn't show up at one station to get, people to move or not move or, whatever, because that has all the earmarks of disaster. And that is the big concern. I think, Andrew, you covered everything else. And the other thing is that because of what went on with all the demonstrations and anybody who was involved in any of the protest marches, the peaceful protest marches, etc., is asked to go to be tested before Monday if they know that they're going to be using the subways and they were out in the marching. And there is a website which is coronavirus.ny.gov, and that will give you the location of the nearest testing site to where you live. And they have opened that up. There were all kinds of parameters, like people like me, old people, whatever, could go and get tested, but now it is open to everybody and anybody who thinks that they were somehow involved in the protest marches or were near people who were in the protest marches or anything else.
That makes perfect sense. People were very
and they
close
would like exactly, and they would like to do that before Monday so that people are not riding the subways who might have been exposed to because as clean as you make it, as clean as anything else, you breathe on somebody or, God forbid, whatever it is. So that is really, really important. I'll say it again. It's coronavirus.health, HEALTH.ny.gov.
Good. Thank you, Trudy.
Thank you,
Trudy. And in regards to what you said, there won't be, I understand there will be platform controllers to help gauge the loading factors and try to convince people who aren't wearing masks to take one and or purchase one. but I'm guessing that your fellow
They're
riders.
giving them out. They're giving
Yes.
them out. There
I'm
is
guessing
something like
there'll be some
100,000
pressure from your
You
fellow
don't have to spend.
passengers.
You don't have to spend money to buy them, but they really want everybody who is going on the subway to be wearing a mask. That
Right.
is so important. And the other thing, and what you may want to do, Andrew or Lisa, is to check also with Polly Trachtenberg's office, because it's my
Trachtenberg.
understanding, Trottenberg, that it's my understanding that she is coordinating this for the city. But the big concern is that people just don't show up at a subway and say, I'm going to help move people around or whatever, because that's where you really have disaster all written out.
Absolutely.
Okay, and I only have one more announcement, and either if we don't end by 2, but I hope we will, at 2 p.m., there is going to be a statewide moment of silence for George Floyd. That is the same time that they are starting the memorial service for him.
At Cadman Plaza?
Well, there's going to be one here, but there is going to the big one is going to be in Minneapolis, because his funeral will be in Houston next week.
Right.
But statewide, the governor has declared a 1-minute moment of silence, and it's 2 p.m. So if we can either end before 2 p.m. or else stop what we're doing at 2 p.m. for that moment of silence, it would be
Thank
wonderful.
you, Trudy. So, an important part.
If anybody has any questions, I won't mute myself. I'll stay on.
All right. Are there any? Because I'd like to introduce our speaker. His time is limited, and I know he has a lot of.
Okay, I know that. No, it's fine. We can continue this afterwards.
Okay,
Then
great.
we can continue this afterwards. I'm staying on. Okay.
Okay, thank
Randy
you.
has his hand up. Randy, did you have a question? Or
Yeah, I
somebody
just wanted to add to Andrew's remarks about the Omni, that Alan Poutre said that they're making good progress. They're ahead of schedule, and they're going to have all the subways and all of the buses able to accept Omni by the end of the year.
By end of 2020.
Yeah, end of this year.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Let me just say that Mark Dowd joined the MTA in November of 2019 as the first Chief Innovation Officer. He's leading several pre-COVID technology initiatives, and he's going to speak to them. Whatever is tested on the subways is likely to also be tested on buses and the commuter railroads. There are several interesting new technologies that have proven to kill the virus. Mark was the founder and executive director of Smart Cities Lab, which has provided policy support and a venue for cities to share what works. He served several different roles in the Obama administration, including senior advisor in the White House Office of Management and Budget, and a senior advisor in the White House Council of Environmental Quality. I'm not going to go through this bio. It is a very impressive bio. But he also served as the senior advisor to U.S. Department of Transportation Secretary Fox. And so he knows what he's talking about. I've heard him make presentations to the board. And it is a pleasure to introduce Mark Dowd, MTA Chief Innovation Officer.
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. Working from home is always a little fun, right?
Yeah.
My dog usually engages sometimes.
Guest speakers are just beginning to talk now.
Randy.
Okay, sorry about that.
Don't do that, Randy. Okay.
So I thought, COVID has obviously provided a significant amount of opportunities to innovate, right? And they're innovation by necessity. There's a lot of things that MTA is doing that they never were built to do, right? And so I thought I'd try to walk through some of them. And the impressive way to me that the agency has responded to the health crisis, and some of the difficulties in following the guidance from federal agencies and some of the tripwires that has hit. So if you look at the way that the disease is spread, It is both through touch, and through aerosols, right? So if obviously you wear a mask to prevent the aerosols if you're sick. Most of the masks do not really help you in breathing in the aerosol, but it does help you from contaminating other people. The touching piece, it was amazing. So I spend 2 days a week down in DC to parent my children, and I live up in New York. Also, I lived in New York for 18 years prior to, and rode the subway every day, etc. It was amazing to me how many times I touched my face. Like as soon as you become aware of it, I just saw Carol's dad touch his face, right? Everybody, like it just like, and there was this great part where the guys from the CDC were talking about this, and then you look at the stage and they're all touching their faces at different times. And so the first place we focused was on decontaminating the surfaces, right? The surfaces, and we had to go, there's the tried and true washing your hands with soap and cleaning with bleach, right? And so we went through that process, and we have 6,000 subway cars, 4,700 buses, paratransit, rail cars, 442 subway stations. Like there's a lot of surfaces to cover. So our attempt to try to cover those surfaces was on a 72-hour basis. When Governor Cuomo closed the subways from 1 to 5 to allow us more time for cleaning and to find safe places for the homeless, we then were put on a 24-hour basis, further stretching the capacity of our system and our workers to get this done. So back in March, I read an article about how UV kills SARS-CoV-1. So SARS-CoV-1 is the one that caused SARS and is directly related to MERS. And so I was started looking at whether or not UV would be an option. I engaged with Columbia University. Dr. Brenner at Columbia University had a technology where you could keep it on all the time. And if you know anything about UVC or UV, it's the part of the spectrum that causes skin cancer. For the Irish folks, Irish American folks like myself, I'm very aware of that. And so keeping it on all the time is probably not an option for many of us. But I asked him if he would then stay on as our technical advisor, and Dr. Brenner agreed to do so. And working with him, realizing the operational restrictions, you can't. So a lot of the UVs, it's really neat looking. They're like, some of us are old enough to remember tanning beds. They look like a big tanning bed coming in, and they put them on a robotic platform. And if you know anything about our subways and buses, that's just not going to work, right? So working with him, he said, look for technology companies that have miniaturized the UV. So I found a startup out of Denver called Puro Lighting, had miniaturized the UV lamps to allow our subway and bus folks to get them in and out of the vehicles. And so it's kind of technology similar to what you see on Men in Black, right? Where the guy comes and tries to erase your memory and hits you with the flash. Very similar type of means in which the UV light is distributed. And so we brought those guys out. And this is, again, just as COVID was starting to ramp up. And the guys who run this startup are about 31, 32 years old. And they said they did not want to get on a plane and come to New York. So I convinced them that this was a public health emergency, that this is what their technology is for. They got on the plane, came and did a proof of concept, and it went very, very well. I promised them they would be in and out of New York. By the time they got on the plane in Denver to the time they got off the plane, it was 60 hours. So we did a good job of getting them back home safely. The proof of concept, we were ready to go back in March, and what happened, as you all well know, our workforce became very impaired with the disease, and we were unable to get that off and running. We were 2 weeks ago able to demonstrate this for the press in the Corona Yard, and we are currently running a pilot. And the pilot is built around feasibility. Can we take these lamps, right, which no one can be exposed to, put them on a subway car, put them in there for 15 minutes, have them kill the COVID, and then move them out, and do it in a manner that is consistent with the point I was making before, where the governor is requiring us to do 24 hours. So feasibility is the first question. Second question is cost. Is it cost effective compared to our current disinfecting? And third is our throughput going to be efficient enough to allow that to happen? So the pilot is focused on those three issues, and those three issues are what the folks in the subway portion are working on. As they're working through that, trying to figure out what configuration, how many lamps, what's the electrical capacity to power those lamps. Can they do it in a worker safety appropriate manner? All those feasibility questions are being done. The bus folks are also watching and learning and trying to figure out from a configuration basis. So the 150 units, we got 150 units that we bought for just over $1 million. Those 150 units are on tripods, so they're like, it looks like 2 books on a tripod, and then they flash, and we put 3 of those in each subway car, close the doors. UV light cannot go through windows, so there's no chance of anybody getting harmed outside of that. And we flash them, and for 15 minutes, and then we try to figure out how to move them efficiently from car to car, and try to with the 150 lamps, 150 units. If it's effective on subways and buses, we'll then move to Long Island Railroad and Metro North. We're also going to try it in some fixed locations too. So that's the feasibility piece. We have EPA, US EPA, who is working with us on this particular to help us figure out. So we both have Dr. Brenner at Columbia University, and we have US EPA helping us also in terms of trying to figure out how to best deal with the fact that the efficacy of his kill. The good thing with Dr. Brenner is he has what's called a BSL-3 lab. So there, CDC has different levels of safety. BSL-1 is your basic lab that you can do. BSL-2 is some communicable diseases. BSL-3 is like pretty serious stuff. So they grew some of the SARS-CoV-2, which is the virus that causes COVID, and demonstrated that the lamps actually do kill SARS-CoV-2, which we felt was a really important piece for our ridership to feel secure that not only the lamps are effective, but they are proven to kill SARS-CoV-2. So that's the most recent disinfecting approach. We also have this other thing called biostats. Biostats almost sound too good to be true, but the premise of biostats are that we disinfect, with the usual way. Then we put this coating down, and if anybody has a car that the windshield coating that you put on to let the water fall off, it's the same. It adheres, same idea, and it presumably keeps the virus from growing on the surface for approximately 30 to 60 days. So if that proves out to be true, we then can deal with the surfaces in a pretty meaningful way that way. We are working with EPA. They are testing those out in their lab down in North Carolina to determine whether or not that the claims to the companies of the biostats actually work the way that they say they work. So we're also using defoggers, electrostatic means in which to try to get to every nook and cranny. You should see that, like, when I went to the Corona Yard for the press conference on the UVs, inside the superintendent's office was like 20 different methodologies in which, sprayers, pumps, backpacks, all kinds of different ways that we're using to try to innovate and try to get the subway cars, the buses, and the trains all clean on a 24-hour basis. And it's challenging. It's challenging because some of the typical ways, people have to wear like level 3 suits. You don't want to do that. Some of the foggers are, that leave a film, and so as we go through this, and time is of the essence, we're trying to make sure that we keep our riders safe and our workers safe through that process. So that's a little bit of an arc of what we're trying to do to disinfect, using different technologies, trying different things out, different methodologies. And again, the idea is if something has a reasonable likelihood of success, we'll give it a try. And that's the premise. Before I move into some of the other technologies that we're going through and some of the other things that we're looking at, I thought I'd see if there was any questions about the disinfecting technology and methodologies that we're using.
If anybody has a question, please raise your hand. We're going to go to members first. Andrew, yes, okay, Andrew.
Thanks, Mark. So a few questions. First of all, how great a physical distance from the ultraviolet lights will the lights be effective in killing the virus? If it's at one end of a subway car, will it reach to the far end of that car, or do you need multiple lights in that car?
You need multiple lights in the car. There's a minimum of three tripods that have 6 lights on, 6 lamps on.
And they're good for how far a distance, would you say?
You know, there's 2 issues. One is distance. One is strength of the lamp, right?
Right.
So that's the distance piece. The other is its ability to bounce or refract off and get some of it like underneath the seat and stuff like that. So those are the 2 things. So duration and strength are the 2 things we go for. And that's the technical side of how this works.
And are these lights, have they proven to be harmful to people? Should they be in a car where there's actually people?
No, they cannot be in a car where there's people. And they're actually, each of these lamps is equipped with a motion sensor. So if anybody accidentally, one of the workers accidentally is there, it will not turn on. But no, this is, yes, that is a concern. We've spent time talking to unions about it. This is the type of thing that if you do it correctly, it's pretty straightforward, right? You put the lamps in, you get out of the room, let the lamps do their work, and then go back in the room. There's no residual. So it's not, as soon as the lamp's off, there's no residual potential for it.
Great. And once the lamps have done their work, how long a period of time would that car be free of, or is that part of the test?
No, I think it's again, disinfecting is you know, just like you do in your house, right? You take your you know, Lysol, you wipe the surface, and then as soon as something gets on the surface, it's reinfected. And that's the biostat piece, right? The biostats claim to put a protective coating over top, and it kills all viruses. I'm interested to see how that works.
Great. And my last question is, the CDC has come out and said this virus doesn't live on surfaces like they previously thought it did. So does that make the fight for the antimicrobials different, or does that just continue anyway?
I don't think they say it doesn't live on surfaces. I don't think they said exactly that. I think that the prevalence that they thought that the way it was communicated to each other was through surfaces, and I think they revised that to take that down as one of the primary. It's still, surfaces are still something that you have to be careful about. But no, I think the aerosols is you know, when we talk about social distancing, what we're trying to address in social distancing is the aerosols.
Yeah.
That 6 feet. You know, and is an arbitrary number to me, but that's the number that they've chosen. And we all know in our subways, how are we going to do 6 feet, right? I think Andrew, when you recounted the mayor's plan, that's not mass transit.
Right.
So there's an existential issue for transit to try to overcome.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Members, I see Christopher, you have the floor. Go for it.
Thank you, Lisa. As I saw this on the press conference on the YouTube page, and I see you studied on the 7 train, but are you going to do this on the older car fleet that is still running right now, like the 68s, the 46s cars?
So we're going to do it. So the reason why we're on that train is because it makes for a good press opportunity in the Corona Yard. But the subway folks are going to be trying it out in many different types of cars. That's the idea. Again, the idea is feasibility. So you can't just do it in one car and assume it's feasible for every car. So yeah, and then if it is feasible and it is cost effective and we can get the throughput, we will then scale that to the larger part of the system. Thanks.
Any of our other members, Christopher, you asked your question, right? Hold on, let's see. Okay, so Ron has his hand up, and then Shaul. Okay, Ron, there you go.
Hi. I got two questions. First, supposedly there is a part of the UV spectrum that does not harm humans, including their eyes. Have you looked into that? That's question one.
Sure, that's called far UVC. Far UVC, that's actually how I first came to Dr. Brenner. I read a science based article about a study that he was doing on far UVC. Obviously, if we can keep UV light on 24/7, that reduces aerosols, right? And it goes to the aerosol issue. We are, and I think you all would appreciate, we don't know whether or not that's a great idea, because that's part of what I'm working with the EPA on, and Dr. Brenner and others, to try to figure out whether that's safe. I think the best, like, it's not a question of effective. It's a question of, do we really want to put something that's 24/7 shining down on people where we don't know for sure whether it's safe? So we got to reassure ourselves that it doesn't cause harm.
Obviously, but you would look at it, if it turns out to be a safe thing, you would consider doing it throughout the fleet. I know it would take time and money, but for 24/7, if it looks safe.
Yeah, correct. I think the application there is pretty impressive if it does prove out to be safe.
Yeah, and the second part of the question is not just this virus that we worry about. A couple of years ago, we had the RSV virus all throughout the New York City area and Long Island. I was one of the people who was hospitalized with it.
Right.
And of course, the flu. So right. If that technology is proven to actually work and be safe, that could help do a lot of other prevention of disease spreading.
So we look at the focus right now. You're correct. The focus right now is the pandemic that we're currently in, right? And the harm that it's caused our community, and the impairment it's caused mass transit. The interesting thing about when I said innovation, we're forced into this space, is that then you start understanding that hey, if we built our subway cars with UV lamps in them, then when they're taken out of service, you just hit them and they kills everything. Not just, by the way, not just COVID. It kills other harmful pathogens that are in the. More importantly, if we find a way to clean and disinfect on a less expensive, more efficient way, that's also going to help us in the future to have a nice, safe ride, right?
Nice to know that you're looking into that. So thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you a question before we go to Shaul. Are you looking? These are portable devices, and the antimicrobials, I'm assuming, are something that's used to wipe down the equipment. Are you looking at any, retrofits to make permanent the UV equipment, should it work, with the safety features, and also to install any sprayers for, I guess, an easier, faster approach to disinfecting, should that also prove to be effective?
I think again, we're in a crisis, and so once we figure out what works, I think obviously then trying to figure out how to institutionalize it and do it in a cheaper, safer way, right?
Great, thank you. And I see, okay, Shaul.
Okay, hi. My question concerns ventilation, because aerosols is one of the main ways that COVID spreads, and in subway cars, ventilation is an issue. I've read about studies in China that showed that, let's say in a cafe, there's an air conditioning unit, and the people who contracted it, most of them are in line of the AC unit. I'm just wondering if you've looked into anything in subway cars concerning ventilation.
Sure. So we are working with hopefully Department of Homeland Security Science and Technology Director has been engaged with us in the past, trying to figure out how we deal with air exchange is really your question, right? Generally, if you can exchange air 10 volumes in an hour, you have rendered essentially the aerosols to not be a concern. How do you do that in our subway cars, right? And that's exactly what we're working with scientists right now to figure out. Can't keep the windows open. That'd be the easiest way, keeping the windows open. We tried it on our buses recently. Because we can just open the windows and allow that. But what happens is that it gets hot, and so we're trying to like, we're kind of like, which would you rather be, in a hot bus or one that's filled with COVID? I think you're always going to go with the hot bus, right? But then but that can't be the only option. So we're trying to figure out other options to deal with this exact issue. Part of that process is consulting with airlines. I had a great call with Delta Airlines, as they've got that piece hammered. They do that really well. They don't have the surface piece done well. And so they were interested in how we were dealing with surfaces. I was interested with how they were doing with air exchange. And so we still continue to look into the space, whether or not we need new filters. How do we do this? Like, the difficulty with, if you know the difference between an N95 mask and a regular mask, it's the ability to breathe, right? And it's really hard to breathe in the N95 mask because it's filtering. And then those filters require you to breathe harder. Just assume our 1990 HVAC system in the subway, put a state-of-the-art filter in there, it's going to have the same trouble as that mask over your face. It will have trouble air exchanging, and we'll have to work harder. So these are the things operationally that we're trying to work through. It's a good question, though.
Also, just adding on to that, the thing is, if windows were open in subway cars, would you be concerned about steel dust and other?
Yes. Yeah, so right, it's reducing one harm, causing another one. So yeah, the particulate in the tunnels makes that almost a non-starter.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I'm going to ask another question before I ask anybody else. You said that this will move on to Long Island Railroad and Metro North after you've seen what effectiveness there is. I'm wondering if what the metric is and what the time frame is.
So sure. So the metric is what I mentioned, the three things. Remember, there was the feasibility. So that's operational feasibility. Second is cost, and third is throughput. So those are the things that we're looking at, both from a subway and bus perspective. So that'll be done in the first month. So I want the time frame to push us, but not to the point where we're making mistakes. So we have weekly check-ins with the subway team right now, but I'm assuming that'll be about a month. So a month from hopefully around the 4th of July, we'll have a good understanding of the feasibility. And if feasibility works well, works well on subways, not so well on buses, then we'll move to Long Island Railroad, assuming those folks will be listed. LIR and Metro North will be sending operational people to the depot to make sure that it's being done, and try to go to school on it. And then they'll have their operational situation figured out already. And then we'll move the 150 units over to those two railroads, 75 apiece.
Great. I'm sorry, you said feasibility, cost, and what was the third one?
Throughput.
Throughput.
So,
okay.
Yeah. How fast can we get it done?
Okay.
And that's, again, compared to how we're currently disinfecting.
Are you also testing the percentage of, I guess, virus kill, or the length of time?
So like our with the quats and the bleach, it's not a question of whether it kills, it's a question of cost and throughput, right? Okay. It's feasible. We know that method works. And so operationally, they get on the train, they clean it, right? Moving these lamps around, getting them plugged in, does it make sense? Can we do it efficiently? Those are the feasibility questions that we have to go through.
Great, thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else have a question? If you don't know how to actually put a hand raise in your on your screen, raise your hand. There you go, Ellen. Hold on. Okay. Now you have to unmute yourself.
Unmute. Okay. Mark, thanks so much. This is so interesting and helpful. So
Thank you.
this is a follow-on to Shaul's question a bit. Transit Center a few weeks back had a presentation on the bus airflows.
Right.
And one of the things that came up was a system that Toronto was using on their buses. And I wondered if either Toronto or other global places of what they're doing on air exchange, if you've seen anything interesting there.
So could you tell me a little bit more about what Toronto's doing?
So my understanding, part of the talk was that the airflow is from the back of the bus to the front,
Right.
and it was in relation to the bus operators and concern for that. And so one was putting something, I thought, as a air type of barrier towards the front of the bus because the bus operator spends the most amount of time in the bus. So it was a safety precaution being talked about for that bus operator.
Right. So there's two different things, right? One is making it's safe for our operators to be there, and there's a lot of work that's being done there, both from a bus and from a subway and a railroad perspective. The other is using airflow as a way to deal with the one approach that we may start piloting is using UV in HVAC system. The difficulty is it's like, so if you go grocery shopping, right, and you're worried about bringing everything, you just put it out in the sun. Leave it in the sun for about 15, 20 minutes and it's touchdown, right? And so how do you keep a UV on as if air is moving through it too fast, it can't kill it. So it's a neat idea. I'm just not sure it makes sense because it doesn't have exposure long enough to the UV spectrum of the sunlight to kill the so there, the best way to do it is the way the hospitals and laboratories do it, which is with an HVAC system with a filter that can catch the droplets that it carries. But
okay.
one thing I forgot for Shaul and for you is we are definitely going to be changing the filters more often. The frequency I think we haven't figured that out yet, but we are going to be changing the filters more often.
Good to hear.
Sure.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Randy, and then I saw that Jim had his hand up. Randy?
Yeah, can you unmute Rich Cottagio, please, because he has a question? Thank you.
I don't see him. Is he, what phone, is he 845-518? Let's see. Rich, is that you?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, there you go. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, I'm from west of Hudson, Metro North. Do you know if New Jersey Transit has a similar program? And second question, if not, are you going to share the feasibility findings with them?
Of course. So to answer your first question, I don't know. We're in, so we work directly with New Jersey Transit. We collaborate with them on sharing data, sharing information. We have a regional approach. It's part of my DNA to work collaboratively across a number of different groups. From my previous job with the nonprofit that I started, I have there's a number of people I'm engaged with and know and stuff like that. We also work with APTA. But yes, so the idea is for us at MTA to work through this piece with UVs and the biostats, and then as soon as we understand whether they work or don't work, to share that with everyone, to make sure that they, if it works, it's great, right? And we want to share how it worked and what we did. And if it doesn't work, we want to save them from having to spend $1 million on lamps, right? So.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. And Jim. Okay, Jim, now
Yes.
there you go.
Thanks, Lisa. Appreciate it. Mark, thanks so much for the presentation. We're really hoping this works so we can do this on Metro North ASAP as well. You obviously mentioned the effectiveness of the UV against contact surfaces. Am I correct in assuming that if there are any viruses airborne in the cars, they would also be disinfected?
Correct. Correct.
Great. Thank you.
Sure. But again, just wanted to make sure that there are two technologies. Far UV C stays on all the time. We're not sure that that's safe. UV you can't be in the car at the time that the UV is.
Understand. Great.
But
Thank you.
yes, it would kill aerosols and things that are on the surface.
Great. Thank you.
Sure.
Again, if you don't quite know how to raise your hand virtually, Bert, there you go.
Just a question, Jim, on the mathematical cost of this project. Just in the back of the envelope, it sounds to me like you're talking about $100 million just for the lamps, if you try to do the entire fleet. Where's the money going to come from? That doesn't include any operations, obviously, putting them in and cleaning them and moving them.
So I would my assumption is you're assuming I don't know what your assumption is there, but
I'm assuming you paid $1 million for 50 cars worth of lamps. You bought 150 lamps.
No, so the different cars are different lengths, right?
Not much difference.
And so different cars will. So the number of lamps. Your assumption is each lamp goes in a car, and then it's actually just the opposite. We move them. The reason why we got the miniaturized ones is we move them from train to train. So and again, I'm not an operations guy, but I imagine two trains up against each other, across from each other at a yard. You have your power source in between. Some of the cars have enough power source on the cars. You plug in 3 lamps in every other car. You close the doors, do it for 15 minutes, half an hour. The doors open, and while that's going on, you're moving. So you can move them back and forth and operationally get a very efficient way to do it. The other thing is, if you take 3, and if you put 6 in there, and you have the power source to put 6 in there, you're done in 10, 15 minutes. So you can imagine doing an entire train in 10, 15 minutes. And then you bring the next train in, use the same lamps on the next train. So each car doesn't get its own set of lamps. That's why we have the miniaturized ones, so you can move them from train to train. So.
Yeah, but if it takes 15 minutes, you can only do 4 sets an hour. You're talking about
probably less than that, because you have to move the things around. But but imagine the manpower it would take to clean those trains with disinfectant, scrubbing them down. So you get in your level 3 suit, you get maybe 3 people in there, they're wiping everything down. They get, that's the throughput. So remember the 3 things. 1 is feasibility, does it work? 2 is cost, which you're bringing up, and 3 is throughput. Cost and throughput are directly related. If I can do the whole fleet in a day, in 24 hours with say 300 lamps, 300 whatever it is, and that's what we're operationally figuring out, then it's feasible, right? And then the cost isn't that much at all. We would never go with $100 million clean. That would be pretty significant. So the units are about I think about 5,000 a piece. And some of the units are a little bit different than others because some of them are for facilities, so we can roll them through facilities. But
okay, thank you.
Cost is so just to put a finer point on it, our KPIs are compared to our current cleaning regimen, right? So our current disinfecting regimen costs X dollars, can get done in this time, and with this much manpower. And we take the lamps, they have to beat that. They have to be better than that to make it worth it. So it has to be cheaper, has to be quicker, and feasible. Or else, why do it? Like there's not a purpose to do it if we currently have a system that's cheaper and our throughput's better. It doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
Thank you. Larry, and then Andrew, I saw that you had a question as well. So there you go. Larry.
Hi, Mark. Thank you so much for the presentation. And looking in regard to a time factor, you're talking, I've seen the UV lights on subway cars. I've had the honor, or whatever you want to call it, of seeing it happen in action. We're talking about now doing all this UV light at terminals. Not all trains get to an area where you're going to be doing this. A lot of trains, they get to an end station, they turn around and they do the return trip. How is this system-wide between Metro North, Long Island Railroad, and subways? How is this going to affect scheduling and availability of trains if trains have to go to a yard to do this kind of work?
There are smarter people than I am about the operational side of this, but my understanding is that we can address that. I don't know, and I wish I was smarter about the operations to give you a better answer. I apologize, but yeah, we get them cleaned anyway, right? They're getting cleaned, and disinfected. So presumably the same way they're getting disinfected now, they would get disinfected by the lamps.
Okay, let's see. Hold on. Andrew, where'd you go? Everybody's moved around.
I'm here.
No, other Andrew, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Andrew Pollock, did you still have a question? Seeing none. Okay, again, a physical hand raise if you can't find the one on your little Brady Bunch thing. Christopher?
Are you looking for Andrew Kurzweil?
No, I was looking for Andrew Pollock.
Oh, because when you say Andrew, I don't know which one. There's like at least now 3 of them.
I know. But we've got one, and then we've got 2 more.
Yeah.
Right.
So Mark, let me just ask you, because I know you have to go shortly. It is now early June. When would you say you will know when the various technologies that you're testing are effective? Would it be by August, for instance? Would you know?
I'm open before then.
Before then.
That's the intent. I think. So I was on a early morning call with EPA today, and they offered to help us with. They were helping us with the biostats, which is amazing. And then they're going to. It really is. It's like a great public service that they're reaching out to trans agencies and trying to help. Right? They're like, you got all these people trying to sell you all this crap. Let us help you figure out which is good and which is bad. Which is for a lot of transit agencies, they're not as big as MTA. They don't have the ability to do what we're doing. And so it's like one of the other people's questions about New Jersey Transit. We want to help others with what we have, and we're hoping that others will help us with what they have.
Sure.
But the short of it is time is not our friend right now.
Right.
And money's not our friend either. So we have to figure out a way to get to an efficient, cost-effective way to disinfect our system.
We need that vaccine sooner rather than later, obviously.
I think that may be out of Mark's hands.
I think it is, yes. Anybody else?
Okay, Andy Pollock.
Just a quick question. How would the UV lighting work on buses?
Looks like you have UV lighting right there with you right now.
It does.
How would it work on buses?
Yes.
So I think it's the same. So the mobility of these units is how we experiment with it, right? So getting them. So they did a bus demonstration when we were at Corner Yard. With hook them up with the tripods, put them in, flashed, and moved on. So I'm more hopeful on the subway cars and the buses because of the nooks and crannies on buses are a little bit more pronounced than they are at the subway cars. But I'm optimistic that we'll have an answer quickly. The idea is, I know it's not normal, but it's fail fast, right? If it's not going to work, let's figure it out fast. To the other Andrew's question, that, you know, the idea is to move fast. And so we want to know quickly whether or not this works. If it doesn't work, we'll still use those lamps in an efficient way in our fixed location. I do like the UV lighting behind you, though, Andy. Nice work.
Let's see. Last call. Marisol. No, you have to put your unmute button. Okay.
Good afternoon. So when you talk about the metrics, what are the numbers that you're looking to beat?
I don't have those numbers. It's a good question. I don't have the numbers at my hands right now. In other words, how much we spend on cleaning, how quick we clean, stuff like that. They're good questions. I don't know the answer.
Anybody? 1, 2. Okay.
I think Mark has places to go, virtually, of course. And Mark, thank you so much. This has been extremely enlightening. We obviously wish you and us the best of success in this endeavor, and hope to hear your report at the board level soon.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for joining us, Mark.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay. Great.
All right. I think that was really productive and interesting, and applies to all 3 councils. Quite obviously, we are all in the same boat. I have pretty much given, when I gave my opening remarks, my Transit Riders Council report, suffice it to say that service will come back on Monday. We hope that there will be free distribution of masks and hand sanitizer. We look forward to apps that can tell people in advance how busy their train is. But it is important that the full level of service come back so that people can practice social distancing. As was discussed earlier, I'm sure there will be self-enforcing social distancing as riders tell people without masks, get away from me, or where's your mask, or things to that nature. New Yorkers are not shy in that regard.
Andrew, do you want to mention the statement we just put out on the bus lanes?
Yes, we just issued a statement about asking the mayor to immediately start thinking about many additional dedicated bus lanes and transit signal prioritization so that buses can get through faster. That way that more buses can be put on a schedule without being tied up in traffic, and your chances of social distancing will be greater if the bus service is more frequent and gets better throughput from endpoint to endpoint. As an example, I don't think I have to tell anyone the M11 prior to the pandemic, got so caught up on 9th and 10th Avenues that many trips just didn't even start. So obviously, dedicated bus lanes and transit signal prioritization are an important next step. Unfortunately, it seems the mayor needs to be pushed into this. I will have separate discussions with Commissioner Trottenberg because I think she believes this is important as well.
I see Marisol has a question.
I was just wondering, are they gonna start charging on the buses now that they're gonna open up on Monday?
I'm actually waiting to hear, Marisol, if it will still be rear door only boarding. If it is, I doubt that they will. If we're getting back to front door boarding, which I'd be surprised, but I should learn maybe later today, then I think they will be collecting fares. Clearly, the subway is still collecting fares.
Right, but so that makes the argument even more so for the bus lanes if it's going to be.
Yes, it absolutely does. And
yeah,
I'm
and
sorry.
if I could, this is Trudy. Can I add to this?
Finish, Trudy.
1 second,
I'm
Trudy.
sorry. I'm sorry. I thought he had.
1 second. Just let me take this opportunity to welcome Bill Gild, who we have not had with us for many, many months. So glad you're feeling better and able to join us today.
So that's what I was saying. If the buses are still rear boarding, then obviously it makes the argument for the bus lanes. So how many buses do you think they're going to be able to put out there, or they're bringing out the whole fleet?
Don't have the answer to that yet, unfortunately.
Can I add to that now, please?
Sure, go ahead.
Because Pat Foy put out a statement. I don't know if you know, but the CDC nationally put out a whole statement saying that they wanted people to not take public transit, and they wanted people to take the state, the city, everybody wrote their own letters, but Pat made his own statement, and he indicated that buses were going to be used as much as subways. So I think while it wasn't a definitive answer to the question, the way he presented it, and it was our understanding that all fleet buses would be used, and they would use to the best of the ability, because the big concern is that people who are, afraid to use subways and or buses will be taking their cars, and you will have the most monumental traffic jams that there ever were. So that is another reason for making sure that every bus is used, and used the most expeditiously and the most carefully. So I think they were planning on expanding the bus lanes, but I think, let me just say that I think it's great that we are sending a letter and going on record as doing that, and also saying that we think that the CDC, should mind their own business.
Yes, what do they think we are? Dubuque, Iowa? We use mass transit.
The CDC did, and Sharon, I see your hand. The CDC did revise their what they were saying to incorporate more transit options, but it's still absolutely not a realistic approach to our city or region.
Not at all.
Okay.
Well, this was a statement that was sent by almost every big city in the United States.
Good.
Saying you don't know what you're talking about. I mean, but and we signed on to that, New York State, New York City. But Pat Foy also put out his own statement on behalf of the MTA, basically saying in very nice language, but go back where you came from or whatever. Okay.
Great. Sharon?
Is enforcement going to be bolstered, I hope? Every single time I've taken the subway, there have been people leaping over the turnstile, not just kids, respectable people, just ignoring that they're supposed to be paying for the subway. Is there any way to
I'm sure. So one of the things the MTA has said, starting Monday, there will be many more platform controllers and an additional police to monitor the boarding levels and all of that. I'm guessing that if there's more police, there should be less of what you just said. But I see it all the time too. That's why I really, the pandemic got in the way. We were going to do a fare evasion project, which I was happy to wait on various platforms and check them out repeatedly. I have gotten some additional cameras placed. I will be inquiring at the next board briefing how the installation, if the MTA is using this brief hiatus, well, not so brief anymore, this hiatus in passengers, to see if they've been installing monitoring, so that when people come back, they will pay, because we're going to have a real hole in the budget, and we don't need additional holes because people aren't paying. Which, Sharon, you reminded me, people had floated out the idea of possible taking reservations on buses and subways. I can just see how that would be enforced. You're not paying, so right. You're gonna honor that reservation, right?
Right. I see that. Thank you, Sharon. I see that Bert has his hand raised, and Christopher as well. Edith was unable to join us today, but she had concerns about the hand sanitizer, that it's foot operated, and that's not that people in wheelchairs are unable to use that. So
yes, that's I will bring that concern to Sarah.
Great, thank you. Bert?
Just a question, if everybody gets a free hand sanitizer, they're gonna put some trash cans in the station so that they won't be all over the floor? No, I'm not kidding.
I think it's a squirt. I don't think you get your own bottle.
So someone's gonna stand there and squirt everybody's hands as they come in, is that what you're saying?
No, I mean, you'll squirt your own hands.
They're putting in stations so that you can, that are apparently foot operated, that you
Okay,
can
I see.
get your own. And there's been several reporters have tried, not all successfully, to use that.
Okay, thank you.
Larry had a question.
No, it's just a statement. New York State has made their own hand sanitizer. Those of you who haven't had the honor of using it, yeah, that's it, Christopher. It's got a hell of a smell to it, and it's very liquidy. So if you put a lot in your hand, it's going to be a mush. So the New York State sanitizer is unlike other ones, and Christopher is, I think, going to do a demonstration. But it's got a hell of a smell to it. I got to tell you.
Does it have the New York State logo printed in it?
You know, on the bottle itself, but not on the liquid itself.
Okay.
New York State clean.
Right. Thank you. Cheryl, you have your hand up and have been waiting patiently. Go ahead.
Another advantage of bus lanes, which haven't seen many people mention, is that by reducing run times, you can have the buses go back in service in the other direction. With 14th Street, you had buses arriving early. That's like adding bus lanes allows us to make increased service while using the existing fleet. And Andrew, like when you talk with Polly, I think you should bring up how the mayor, as part of the budget cuts, cut funding for the Better Bus Action Plan, and we need those lanes. And
absolutely.
And even if like just putting cones up, because Boston, what they've done on some pilots, they literally just put cones on the road.
Yes.
And
yes.
that's setting up. Just even temporary infrastructure like that would do a lot.
Absolutely. Thank you, Cheryl.
Christopher.
Yes, one thing that just because I'm glad, Lisa, you mentioned Edith, because she just texted me earlier. But there is still one thing, Andrew, I found out from ACT, because they brought this up to our attention, that that the local buses are supposed to be, and this is what I think we're all getting a lot of different information on the bus end. They said locals will remain free, and then the SBS and the express buses, you still have to pay. Now, the concern is, and I think Sharon will agree with me on this one, and Trudy, people think that if the SBS you have to pay, they think they're going to get on for free and not go into the machine and get their ticket. That's going to be a very big issue going on in any borough where the SBS buses are running. And lucky on the express, there's only one door, but on the SBS, you have 3 doors. So there's
That's
something
true.
needs to be watched.
And articulated, even local, other articulated, you have 3 doors. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean local. I'm saying not the size of the bus. I'm just saying that between an SBS, you have to pay. An express bus, you have to pay.
No.
But the local, you don't. This is what a
No.
comes in.
Excuse me, Christopher, it's Trudy.
Yes,
It
Trudy.
is my understanding that the same rules, I don't know about the, the express buses or the long distance, but that the rules are the same for the SBS as the regular local buses. I know that was the case along 3rd Avenue, 2nd Avenue, here in Manhattan, that everybody, you were just supposed to enter no matter whether it was a small bus or an Arctic, that you entered through the back door and that you didn't pay no matter what. I think I mentioned it to Andrew, that one of our neighborhood rabble-rousers had brought up the whole thing about how could we lose revenue, and the whole idea is that you're just trying to protect people's health. And it was something that the unions insisted on, because bus drivers were getting very sick because of it. But I don't think there has been any differentiation between the SBS and the local where they're running in the same place.
I'm definitely agree with you, Trudy, but I'm just saying what some people are saying to me. So just be on alert. That's only I'm saying. I agree with what you're saying 100%.
No, but Christopher, that has been the case. That has been the situation. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. We need to get to our commuter council chairs reports, unless there's any other questions on transit.
I do not see any more hands, virtually or actually. Shall I unmute Randy?
I think Jerry goes first on the
Jerry
agenda.
goes
It's
first.
Long Island Railroad first.
Oh,
It's alphabetical.
Always.
Okay, Jerry.
Okay, there's really, can you hear me?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, there's really not a hell of a lot to report, honestly. You know, there is a brief Your Council report that was emailed out. Our on-time performance last month was excellent. However, we had reduced service, which meant we got to keep all of our M3s, the older trains, in the yards. And they're the least liable and more likely to break down. So we had good on-time performance, but nobody on the trains to enjoy it. We're supposed to be getting our service re-upped on Monday. I don't know if we'll be exactly to the regular service, but it will be better than what we have now. And as Andrew mentioned earlier, there had been some conversations about reservations, but that is totally unworkable, particularly on a Long Island Railroad where you have to change trains.
I just want to point out that Mark just called me because he's on, so I'm trying to find him.
Oh, let Mark go then. I'm sorry. I hadn't seen him earlier.
Right, I am looking, and Edith has joined us. There's Mark. Sorry about that. Okay, thank you.
All right, so let Mark take it away.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. I didn't get to hear what you say because I was calling Lisa in the meantime.
Sorry about that.
That's fine. A lot of people are on, which is good. I'm going to go by my report. Things are changing day by day. I'm actually speaking at the railroad this afternoon because they're you know, it's very strange our positions because Long Island started phase 1 a while ago. So we have people who are out and about who are anxious to get into the city. But the city hasn't started their phase 1 yet till Monday. So I think at this point, the railroad is anticipating, at least they said a couple of days ago, having up to maybe full service on Monday in anticipation of people who have been already going in. The trains have been getting busier the last week, again, because Long Island's about to enter phase 2 any day now. Am I still on?
You are.
Yeah.
Because I can't see anything. So I think they're trying to play a little bit of catch up because they probably weren't anticipating these dates, I think, initially. So I'll be speaking to them this afternoon as to how they're going to do it. Concerns that we have are, as you know, fares, how they're going to charge, if you're going to be buying monthly tickets, so they're going to be buying weekly tickets, daily tickets, you know, depending on people's work schedules when they go back to work. Will they be working 5 days a week, 4 days a week? No one really knows that yet. The people who've been going back on, as you know, are construction workers whose jobs may have started. So they're already commuting. So it's going to be interesting to see over the next couple of weeks what the numbers are as far as returning riders, people who are furloughed getting back their jobs. So I understand that it's tough for the railroad to anticipate what's going to happen. But they're anticipating at this point to have up to maybe possibly full service running as of next week and see how it goes. That's really at this point till I know more this afternoon. That's really what I can say other than what's already in my report.
Mark, I saw a letter that you wrote regarding credits for monthly ticket holders and how, since they're not riding, those dates of termination should be extended. Are you making any progress with that?
No, I think at this point they're claiming poverty. I don't think that they're looking to do that. They haven't said definitive no if it's going to be an FDA decision, but considering they say that they need the money, I don't think that we're going to win that battle. But as you can see, that was an early on letter when it first started. And I guess we will continue the fight. We're also really was more concerned with the, not just the monthly, but the people who bought maybe a weekly ticket that couldn't use it back then.
Right.
10-day trip, they didn't get to use it for 10 days because everything stopped. Again, I think their position also is they continue to run service. So if someone didn't go because their employer told them not to come to work, their service was there for them to use, and it wasn't a railroad's decision not to give service. So it's going to be a battle, but that's the arguments we've been getting so far.
Yeah, I think it would have been goodwill to just give a 30-day extension to everybody at the minimum, but whatever.
Simpler too.
Great, thank you, Mark. I'm sorry I didn't see there. We do have something like, let's see, how many people do we have today? 33 participants. Might be a record. I see, Cheryl, you have your hand up. Does anybody else have question for Mark. Okay, Shaul.
Hi. In order to reduce social distancing, you have people leaving home earlier, heading to work earlier. Has there been any discussion about adding additional trains specifically early in the morning?
Well, that's the part of the discussion this afternoon. Now that we've gotten closer to Monday, last time I spoke to them, they was not sure if the schedule was going to be, other than just maybe just returning it to the way it was. But as part of my discussion with them this afternoon, I'll know more as to what they're planning to do next week.
Okay, thank you.
And I just heard back from Craig on the question of fares being collected on Monday on buses, and it is still going to be rear door boarding. So I'm assuming no fares to Sharon's question. Or Marisol, somebody's question about whether there would be fares on Monday on buses. It's still rear door boarding.
So Mark, I'm actually looking on the I'm looking on the LRR app to see if they increased the trains from last week on Monday, and I do not see any increases in service. But they may just not have put that on an app yet. On the app yet. Okay.
No other questions for Mark?
Let's see, no other questions. Ron has his hand up. Ron has his hand up. Okay, Ron.
Oh, okay. Go ahead,
Hi.
Ron.
Since you mentioned Long Island Railroad and the app, I would note that there are times when the railroad doesn't bother to update the app for train schedule changes, like on a weekend when there's no service somewhere. Sometimes it's just not there. So maybe you could pass that on and see if perhaps they could be a bit more diligent about that. And in this case, of course, if it's changing next week, that's very important.
I really think the My LIRR app is wonderful. It has up to the minute service changes. It's terrific. Yeah, I think it's really good. Not My MTA.
I was just on the train
LIRR.
time. I was just on the
Train
train
time as well.
time one. They should all have the right information. Same.
They should.
I think sometimes they get a little careless about it, but it is a good app. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I do want to say that as we were speaking, Randy, right before you go forward, we got an email from Pat Warren, who's the Chief Safety Officer, who is asking. They're asking for 4,000 non-operating volunteers and other MTA staff to work across 2 shifts to help distribute masks and sanitizers to customers and employees. This distribution will run through Friday, June 12th. And they have sent out a form. So if we'll send it out to our PCAC list, to our TRC list, I'm sorry. If anybody else is interested, please email me at ldaglean@mtahq.org, and I'll send you this information.
Lisa, who did you say that came from?
Pat Warren.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, well, that was the whole idea, not just to get anybody from up the street who says, I'll move people around. Right. So these are all going to be people who have some connection to transportation or the MTA or New York City Transit or something.
Hopefully.
Or something.
Or something.
Okay. Or something, yeah.
All right, Randy, sorry to go for you.
Oh, okay. All right, good. All right, so my report is sent out with the material, so there's really nothing I want to add to it. I wanted to give a shout out to Walter Zulik. Walter was proposed as a member for the MNRCC over 2 years ago, and bottleneck up in Albany. I don't know what the problem is. Lisa, we don't know either, but he's eminently qualified to become a member of the MNRCC. And Jim Cameron, we don't get to see you that much anymore, but you used to come to our meetings, and as a welcome to you, as well as everyone else, of course. And Bill, glad to see you. There are going to be new schedules put out for Metro North on the 15th of this month. Details have not been issued yet. These will include I got confirmation this morning. I emailed Metro North that they will begin to include the dates on those PDFs, which are on the internet. They haven't done it so far, but they said they will do it, and they gave me a shout out for that. And there was an article in the Journal News recently was sent out, the public could get it, and it was also sent to, included now press clips for the PCAC members. And it turns out that it wasn't completely factual. I contacted Kathy Rinaldi, and she wrote back that the entire article was not true. So I shared that with my counsel, and I have nothing else at this time.
Thank you. Sharon has a question. I do want to say that at this point, it looks like they're only taking MTA employees with ID numbers for the shift volunteering, but I'll confirm that. Okay. Sharon?
4 quick things. First of all, I hope that you will be extending to have at least 1 round trip a day on the weekends to Wassaic, because so many people commute up there. That train is wildly crowded usually on weekends, and there's been no service. So that's been really difficult. I took Metro North last night, and there was a storm, and I know we're under extreme circumstances, but there apparently trees fell on the track at around 9 o'clock. At midnight, that had not been cleared. We did not know that. A bunch of us were dumped at the Pleasantville station at midnight, including several nurses trying to get back home, and told to take a cab or something. And many of us were stranded. Some of us called an Uber. I don't know what happened to the others. By the time we got to Metro North, by the time I did, I had 3 minutes before the last train until the next one would be 4 hours later. I don't know what happened to the other people. And I know we're under extreme circumstances, but I wonder why there couldn't have been a bus or something to accommodate us, to say nothing of at least letting us know ahead of time what was going on. And then the last thing is that new website. I tried to do planned trip last night in the middle of this chaos, and it wasn't functioning at all. I couldn't get any trip planned.
Yeah, the trip planners are very non-functional on many things. They don't find trains. They're really bad.
Okay, that's it.
Sharon, I just did on Metro North's train time, I just did a hypothetical trip a week from this Saturday.
Yeah.
From Grand Central to Wassaic, and apparently there is a 9:10 p.m. out of Grand Central with a connection to Southeast for Wassaic. So there will be some weekend service.
9:10 p.m. or a.m.?
PM, believe it or not.
From Grand Central on Saturday night?
Saturday the 13th. Hopefully this is just, they will amplify this. That's not enough.
Okay, we'll check. Thank you.
Yes. Any more questions on the Metro North report? So Randy, I guess a logical question is full restoration of service on the west of Hudson lines contingent on New Jersey Transit and what they're going to do starting Monday?
Yeah, I've seen nothing that NJ Transit is going to do anything more than they have. They can't, I'm keeping my fingers crossed. I'm knocking wood. They've been very, very good to west of Hudson, Port Jervis, and PCAC Valley line. The delays have been minimal. The cancellations, I don't want to say anything. They've been good, but they still.
But it's enhanced President's Day service, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is. So there should be plenty of engineers, but guess what? They're still canceling trains every day on the Northeast Corridor, and that's the only one I get the alerts for. But if I check the other lines, I could find that there are cancellations there as well.
Yeah.
So we're contingent on what they're doing, and I just don't know anybody who rides the train from here. I passed by the parking lot recently just to see what was going on. They promised us a new shelter at Nanuet, and nothing happened yet. Turns out that they were going to advertise the project for award this year, but everything was on hold. So, but there were 5 cars in the parking lot that afternoon I went.
As far as the Northeast Corridor is concerned, we recently got good news that the Portal Bridge, there's money to rebuild that. So that's a piece of good news anyway. That and the North Jersey coastline branches.
Right.
Yeah. Anything else on Metro North?
Yeah. In these
Otherwise, we can
moments that we've been talking, that Randy's been giving his report, they Long Island Railroad updated their website for additional trains on Monday.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
All branches?
What's that?
All branches?
I did not look at all branches. I looked at a specific trip. I find it easier, but
okay.
Okay.
Well,
I see no
that's good
hands.
news.
Christopher has a hand that he's waving.
Probably has 2.
No. Well, Andrea, you got my email. So, Lisa, when you just mentioned Long Island Railroad, there is, sorry, with Long Island Railroad, if they're going back to full service, that means all the services should be back to their original routine, because, that means the Montauk branch, because the only branch I see that's running really good is the, and I might say it wrong, so Andrew, correct me, the Ronkonkoma.
Ronkonkoma.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this, don't forget, it's for Monday.
I like Ronkonkoma. That's got a nice ring to it.
We just call it Ronk, right, Jerry?
Yeah.
And Larry.
And that train runs every hour.
It's for Monday, but I mean, everything I'm looking at is still off peak. I don't know if they're going to be charging peak or not. I'll check that. But now, while I do that,
That's something we'll discuss this afternoon in our discussion. But just as an offhand, just so everyone knows, Ronkonkoma, which is my line, always has the best performance. There's always a line that has the ticket check because it has a lot of Long Island Railroad employees traveling onto it, and a lot of live out that way. So it's always been a line that runs good service and ticket collecting. So
Better than Port Washington branch, which doesn't go through Jamaica?
Well, Port Washington's actually had a lot of problems the last couple of years. So last year, it's had a lot of problems. It used to be a very quick line, but no, they've had a lot of problems.
Question for Mark, because I didn't see. Mark, can you please double check the Montauk branch, because everyone's been going to your line.
Which branch?
The Montauk branch.
Montauk.
A lot of them are going to your branch because a lot of people saying that train runs more frequently. Yes, I know there's a single track in between Spionk or going into once it gets to Babylon. Babylon. There's some people saying that there's still not enough trains. There's too many trains terminating not near Spionk. So there's an issue going on.
Okay.
On that branch.
Christopher, they are redoing the signaling between Patchogue and Babylon, and that could affect some of this. But once this signal work is done, there will be definitely improved and more frequent service.
Oh no, Andrew, that's not what they're complaining about. That part they're actually glad they're getting the signals fixed. It's just that when there's problems or delays from Spionk, just going from Spionk and going to Montauk, that's where it's dying down, and there's been a lot of issues going on.
Well, it has only been essential service, so they haven't been running their regular
like you're talking
trains
about
too.
Montel Williams, you know that.
Yes, I know.
Ron has his hand up as well.
Yeah, just to note that I'm on the Port Jeff branch. The Long Island Railroad president lives, I think, about two stops farther than I do, but it's a pitiful excuse for a branch. And it's service into Manhattan, especially only 2 direct trains a day. In the evening, there's 2 direct trains eastbound, and both of them are before rush hour starts.
Yeah, that's going to change, I'm sure. The Port Jeff branch had service at least every 2 hours, as I recall, through the day.
And you know what? But they're down 95% of ridership. So at what point do we push them for more service until more people are taking it? Which I think started over this past week. So I think now is the time that we have to say, and they hear us. There's going to be more service because more people are taking it now.
Well, I'm talking about when before COVID. It's still, you can go for 4 hours at a time without a train. James Dermody once told me that he thought it was all farmland east of Huntington.
Right.
Hopefully Long Island Railroad doesn't still believe that.
No, I would not. A lot of them live out past Huntington, so I would hope not.
And Phil Ang lives in Stony Brook, so he's well aware of what the service is.
Right.
Oh, yeah, he is, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all.
Thanks.
Okay, I see no other hands raised virtually or, oh, I see Matt Camper has his hand raised. Oh, and I see Robert Barrios after that. Matt Camper, go ahead.
Okay. I just want to update. I'm looking at the MyLAWR app right now, and I looked at a couple of particular branches, the main line and the Babylon branch, and for Monday, and it appears as if there's going to be service, but there are going to be particular rush hour trains that are going to be combined with each other, and it appears maybe it might be off-peak. Again, that could be something that maybe Mark could check with the railroad on this afternoon when he has that call. But that's just what I'm looking at according to my LAWR app.
Could you say that again? Could you say that again?
I'm looking. There are, according to the my LAWR app, I'm looking at it right now. I looked at Babylon and I looked at the main line. There are trains that are going to be running. Basically, it's kind of like a regular weekday schedule, but there are going to be some trains that are going to be combined with each other starting on Monday. That's what I'm seeing according to my LAWR app.
Okay, I would not be surprised to hear that, but okay, thanks. I'll find out this afternoon at the call in about an hour.
And then I saw, Robert, you had your hand up or waved.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm sorry I'm late. We were at a NYPD meeting. Just 3 questions. Question number 1, there's work being, this is for New York City Transit Park. There's work being done on the F line between Church Avenue and Coney Island. And supposedly Monday, we're supposed to go back to normal service. Will there be shuttle buses being provided for this during this phase between Church Avenue and Coney Island?
That is something that I am trying to find out. During this earlier phase, I know that they weren't providing shuttle buses. They wanted people to walk to Coney Island Avenue, for instance, from East 16th Street for a bus. Yeah. I will find that out, Robert, and we'll let you know.
Now, we've got Kate on the phone. Kate, I'm putting you on the spot and asking if you have any information. Kate Contino.
I'm sorry, my connection is pretty poor today. Can you repeat the question?
Sure. The question is when service returns to, quote, normal, unquote, and the Culver Line CBTC work is going to go on weekends, will there be shuttle bus service between Church Avenue and Coney Island provided?
As far as I know, we've not announced any shuttle bus service.
Okay.
Yeah.
We talked about this at the TRC last week.
Okay. The next follow-up question is in terms of the 1 to 5 a.m. shutdown, in terms of trying to get that B51 service restored for the evening only to operate between Lower Manhattan and downtown Brooklyn.
Yeah, I did reach out to Acting President Cipriano about that issue, and he said, you know, the B51 was a victim of much earlier service cuts, as we know, many years ago, and they have no plans to bring it back as of now. You had raised the issue at Transit Riders Council about having to go all the way to Williamsburg to get a B39 to get bus service to come into Manhattan. And I raised that with Craig, and so far there is no return to a B51 type service, which I think is a mistake, because if you're not running subways between 1 and 5 and you want to get from downtown Brooklyn to Lower Manhattan, you're SOL, if you know what I mean.
Exactly. And finally, the last question I had, when the service goes back to normal on Monday, are they still having rear bus entrance?
They are.
Thank you. Thank you guys for your help and assistance.
Thank you.
Let's see, anybody, let's see any other hands raised. Okay, I do. Larry has his hand raised.
Click.
Just want to mention one thing. I think it was Edith or Trudy. I'm not sure who said this in regard to getting tested. I urge every member here, testing is free. There is no charge for testing. If you're going to a facility that is charging you for a test, then they probably might not be legit. I've been getting tested 2 to 3 times a week. It's no big deal. If those who haven't had it done, it's a swab up your nose. It literally takes 5 minutes. They have instant results. You get the results within 15 minutes, or if they have to send it out to a lab, it's usually 24 to 48 hours. So I urge everyone to get tested. It's free, it's easy, it's simple, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, Larry, it's Trudy. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yep, we hear you.
Yeah. Oh, okay. For those who came on late, to find the closest testing site, and now there is testing all over, go to coronavirus.health.ny.gov. That's coronavirus.health, HEALTH.ny.gov. And you will find a site right near you. And Larry, you're absolutely right. And nobody should have to pay for testing. Can I also say it is now 10 to 2. If we could close this down within the next 5 minutes so that we will all be available for the minute of silence at 2 p.m. And for those of you who came on late, there is a moment of silence statewide for George Flood at 2 p.m. and then the memorial service in Brooklyn, which will coincide with the memorial service in Minneapolis, will coincide. Okay?
And I want to add one more thing. Those of you who would like to, you can get antibody testing too, to find out if you have a resistance to the virus. It does not say that you're never going to get it. The antibody testing is only to show that you have a resistance to it.
Yes.
I've been tested
Good
twice.
points. Thank you, Larry.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I just want to say that with regard to the hand sanitizer and mask distribution, that you do not have to be an MTA employee. So you can reach out to me, ldaglian at mtahq.org, and I'll send you the information. And we were thanked. Sarah Feinberg and company were very happy to hear that we had reached out. So.
Okay. Can I move that the meeting be?
No.
No, we still have old
There's
business
more
and new
things,
business.
Judy.
What?
We
There are
have
more
old
things
business
to be
and
done.
new business, which I don't expect will take long. So let's get to it.
Look, I am telling you, it would be a disgrace if we were still on at 2 p.m.
We can also do a moment of silence if we are still on.
Okay, fine.
You're causing the meeting to be extended, Trudy.
Yeah, go ahead.
How about old business? We will pause it. If we're not done, we will pause for a minute at 2 o'clock. Any old business?
I see not. Great.
No old business?
Andy Pollack has his hand raised.
We actually have some old business we need to discuss. This is regarding the R32. Apparently, I found out from Jose Martinez that we had an issue. Nobody even brought this up today, which I'm surprised. We had an issue with the R179 train that apparently, I don't know what happened, but if I can pull up the tweet and
it came uncoupled. That's what happened.
Uncoupled, and they've taken them all out of service.
Yes. So are the R32 still going to remain temporary at the moment?
I'm sure that they are. They are well past their prime, and they have a terrible mean distance between failure rate. So we have spare cars. We can make up for the loss of the 179s. They have been problematical since their 2.5 year late arrival.
Right. And are we still on pace for the R211s?
I believe that we are, but I will get an update. I'm guessing at the next briefing.
Thank you. Matt Shotkin, you have, I understand, your hand raised. I'm sorry I missed you.
I was just wondering if there was an increased ridership or decreased ridership on Metro North. Maybe Randy can speak to that if he's still there.
Yeah, the ridership has been down. It's gone a little bit up, but it's not, we can't go to the bank with the money.
Okay, thank you, Randy.
Any other old?
I'm doing my scroll here. I don't see any hands raised.
Okay,
Sheila is kind enough to text me and let me know.
let's
that
move
I
to new
missed.
business.
Okay.
Don't forget the recognition.
Yes,
Certificate.
absolutely. We have a 20-year-er who has joined us today. Thank you to Randy for being our historian. And that is Trudy L. Mason.
What did I do now?
You've put up with the Transit Riders Council for 20 years.
Well, actually, and I have put up with the MTA for over 40 years. So 42
Well, we're
years.
recognizing
Thank
you for your service with us.
Yes.
Well, thank you. And do I get a gold medal or something?
You'll get a certificate back when we're allowed to do things like that.
It's okay. It's okay. It's been my pleasure, and I know it's not been the pleasure of other people, but because I know I can be a real nudge. But
Thank you for your service, Trudy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other items of new business?
Yes, Christopher.
Yeah, one question. We didn't vote the minutes or approved.
No, you're right.
We did not.
Andrew, bad boy again. That's twice.
I make a motion to accept.
I second.
Well,
great. Is that
We're
for both?
talking about the March minutes now from March PCAC. Anybody object to approval?
all in favor, raise your hands.
Right.
And I'll raise my voice.
And I just raised my hand virtually.
Yes, you did. I'm lowering your hand
Okay.
virtually.
All right.
Bert, did you have a question? No. Okay.
We approved the agenda, I hope.
Yeah, well, we did the agenda, so that's a foregone conclusion.
Right.
Any other business before we?
Scott has his hand raised, unless you're
Oh,
just
sure,
raising
Scott.
your hand, Scott, to
Does Scott have a comment or?
no, Scott, you now have to unmute yourself if you would like to.
I believe Staten Island Railway is going back to a normal schedule on Monday.
Yeah, they'll go back to normal schedule Monday, but the parking
Yeah.
lot is still empty.
Do you have an issue, Scott?
No, not at all. No issues.
Oh,
at all.
you were just you were raising your hand too. Got it. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it was a late hand raise.
Okay, thank you.
Late to the game.
Any other business, or I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
I move that we adjourn.
I second.
Thank you, everybody, and stay
And don't
well.
forget 2 o'clock, moment of silence.
And don't
Yeah.
forget, if you
Wherever
want to
you are.
volunteer for next week and the week after, ldaglian@mtahq.org, and I'll send you the information.
Stay
Thank
safe,
you.
everybody.
Okay, yep.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Peace and love.
Bye.
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 Bye, Trudy.